So as I was just saying, the main issue is not that if you even got in the hands of the right people or the wrong people. The issue there is that mídia merda for the first time have no control whatsoever. Maybe person should watch it. Maybe it was a good person. Who knows? The video is in English. Most of those videos are in English. Most of those you saw that have no tags, nothing specifically tying up. So you be recommended to based on YouTube's algorithm, the famous algorithm. Most importantly, I believe, and overall, I don't like. So besides that, and it ends with, is the situation as it is good? Is essentially having full control good? Now they taste a little bit of the uncertainty, which to me is just another fucking Tuesday. So, it's a film. Now here's the thing, that they're watching, they're sharing that with each other, and it's beautiful, right? Except that most of those things are all tagged in English, they're all written in English, they're all in English. So the chances of where they're going to be tagged by are questionable. Now, does that fully work? I don't know. As I said before, the rate in which those views are showing up doesn't make any bloody sense. Most of those things are reports of a crime, and they're very much self-explanatory as a report of a crime. The ratio doesn't actually reflect that. So a very strong idea is that mídia merda is doing something themselves, right? But they don't control this. The videos are still public. Anyone can have access to them. And all they're doing is adding up a bunch of views to videos that will be recommended to other people. They don't control who that gets recommended to. They don't control who sees that. Again, they don't even control which country, which places those things are saying. They don't control it to this point, as far as that goes, as long as that's a real number. So, again, as I said, it doesn't mean much. It just means that, as I was saying before, as far as this very, very narrow thing goes, because again, as you saw on the bus, it's to me against more than a few other society. Also, by the way, notice for the criminals inside the bus, the driver originally wasn't going to leave us there in the cold until catch the next bus or even some further atrocity after that, right? So I don't really understand how those criminals were acting up this way. But also the accusations of smell and everything else. So categorically, that's a lie. You know? As I mentioned before, that's just it's part of this war crime. That's a very disfranchisement thing. Okay? I'm not a bad guy, and they all know that. And you know that because through those hundreds, many times hundreds of videos you get to see. As I said, every single entrance on the bus is filmed. Every single departure is filmed. Say from a couple exceptions. Chip, we're almost there. As soon as you cross the street, I'm going to put you on the ground. So it can walk a bit easier. Just let us get there. Every single time is filmed. Which means that this reaction for today, I saw at least 4 times from the same people. Shit you not. You're going to see it. It's safe with you. It's deployed in place for you. As I said, my face comes from this being exposed to the press. Because many of those things are contextual, right? You saw the video today of me saying, they're not going to get into trouble. And then if you just watch by itself, it's very out of context. That's why I turned that video private. Never deleted anything, period. If anything is deleted, it wasn't deleted by me. I make things not even private. I make them private to be released later in case something happens to me, or else I will give that to the press. It doesn't matter. Everything that exists is stays there, it's only given to you. As for the days, on the other hand, they stopped this video already? Not yet, but they probably will. Yeah, you notice that they are lying because the mouth moves. As I said, all those faces you saw today in the bus, I cannot speak for all of them at all. But I can speak for some of them. I take this bus every day, almost. I always take the last bus leaving from the mall. And this is this shit driver. And I can pass down to the recorder, but that video is still online. And if it isn't online, it's going to be now. If it isn't public, it's going to be now. And I'm going to let you done. So, not because it matters too much. The evidence comes from the year, from the times when they stole money from me as a bus company, the times when they did a bunch of capital service, they did the other way around. As for the rest, and many of those things cannot be carried out. It's not done by some higher up in the company simply because a driver don't have authority to do something. Every single time there were drugs inside the buses. Today, I think it was one of the 2 times they didn't, but today they're pissing themselves again. Baby, can you really not go with me? I can put it on the ground. It's not going to make it easy for me. It's just going to make it easy for her. Can it go like this, baby? Right, that's what we're going to do tomorrow. We're just going to fix up this bag. It's a lot of unnecessary things. So. And again, YouTube is not even the main online source. There on account, you have countless videos, and that's not even the main source in general. You have offline copies of everything. Not even like one copy, but several copies. Because again, we've survived this fucking war crime for almost 4 years. You really think that this shit that you see right now, pretending to be victims in the bus, didn't try to destroy evidence before? This is the first time. This is a bag full of the evidence of the crimes. We're gonna showcase that. It's upside down, so I cannot show it now. But each of those bottles is dated and tagged, and it's a sample of air at the time they were throwing some type of narcotic on me or some type of other drug on me, either on this place or inside the buses or inside the mall or somewhere else. Again, as I often say, we're sitting, and because they often sit on top of this, get on top of the crimes. Everyone knows. As you saw here the other day, when they were throwing drugs in there, they stopped right before some local municipal guy showed up. The guy who said my name and then was expecting my other last name. So again, as I said, if you think that that's the case, that's not what's going to convince you otherwise. If you think that none of this is a big deal, there are dozens of thousands, hundreds of thousands probably by now, of videos. That's what's going to change your mind. But we're probably not going to be seeing those. That's again why the press is required. It's a lot of processing to organize those things and become more. It's a career building thing for sure. This is like if you have every single case like this, except that this one is real and well documented. Most of the accounts are being really stupid. Also, an account which is not usually go for those crazy situations, right? If nothing else, it's usually the other way around. In this case, it's just it's just one guy. When I say just one guy, I really mean just one guy. But to be fair, even this time of me thinking that things are finally done in public, and the nightmare is finally about to end, let me get this stopped. Oh, not yet, that's surprising. It's still not the first time either. It's about the 4th or 5th or whatever. I lost count how many times I was saying those generic and generalistic explanations that touch both in the short and the long term. Trip we here. Going home. Baby. That's the baby. Hello, baby. It is a baby because he's the only one left. At 16th of December last year, they kidnapped all his siblings, including him. His mother was crying every single night over there, going out to cry for them every single night. And I mentioned that in every single video, and because again, this and share has access to all the data. Everything you see right now, again, let's count how many times I said that. They all have subscribed to that a long time ago. Baby, can't we home? Hey, baby. So every single one. So when I counted that, roughly in December, they gave them back to her. She stopped crying, and I thought everything was fine. I didn't even stop filming all the time. I wanted to. So one time when I made a deal with the criminals, I wouldn't comment on that, which they gave them back. But then in February, as I was doing a backup, again, I go very, very far away so they can access my phone, which they can easily normally do. Imagine some vulnerability implemented on the phone. This one since purchase. I explained there's several videos explaining how it happened, how I figured it out, everything. That's just a water bottle. Is that even mine? I think it is. It just fell. Something else that just fell as I was walking. But many of the other ones, bottles like this, they're very cheap, and you can remove the water. It's not vacuum inside. Oh yeah, I used to be a university student for, but it doesn't matter. What matters is they predated on this in my home, and they started stalking inside my home. And then when stalking was not good enough, they started making things up. When making things up was not good enough, they started putting drugs in my house. So to get me to be out of, well, same drugs that they throw in here. Again, as I said, this is a drug crime. I don't know if I mentioned this. Now that definitely have stopped with this one. There is no way. Live and you learn. This is a drug crime. This crime never survived. Normal drug crimes, quote unquote, are crimes done for the sake of drugs. This is the inverse. This is a crime where the drug is not the end goal. The drug is the tool. Without them drugging me, they'll have nothing. They wouldn't be able to assault me at night. They wouldn't be able to do those other things. Now, technically, it would be able to. It's not the drugs are the requirement. The drugs are the requirement for those crimes to happen in the way that you're saying right now. They in the way this is true. Because it's not for them. I don't know what else fell. I think something else fell. But today it was just a bottle. Because if it did, it'll be in video, it'll be documented, it'll be all sorts of things. The reason why that didn't happen was precisely because they said, oh yeah, this just stopped. It was recording a video. As you see that, that's how those crimes usually go. As I was saying these days, everything that you see is a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of what's actually happened. For the shocking things you see, not just the weird, shitty expressions that don't have any legal value, talking about the other ones that actually are shocking and express what is actually happening. The shocking faces are mostly because at this stage, everything's so well documented, we don't need to be redocumenting those things. I'm generalizing explanations here from things on the back, because this might be the first video, the one of the first ones. At least while me and you were making those things private again, and so why would you do that? As I said, many of things are contextual. Plus, I don't like to leave things loose. This is a closed case as far as giving to any reporter. Also, this is a, as I said, career building case. Hey, baby. To the point where you might be just out of university, and with this, you have a something that would, if you good as you do, just skyrocket into something, right? So, as I said, YouTube is just a gamble. And you would imagine at this point a gamble is better than nothing, but a gamble is not better than assurance. You know what I mean? If you don't force my hand as I did today, and you saw that most of those criminals that are posing for you today are premeditated. In other words, from the females I mentioned that, they said they fully embodied what I was doing, what I was trying to show, before even realizing what was happening on YouTube. They do. Give me a second. I need to pee. As I said before, those things, not yet. As I said, this is the thing. Normally, that's right there. Nothing could have explained better what I said about the press being the best choice. Because there's a reason we document things like, say, things like entropy, and even don't stop doing it. Because, as I say, it's much to explain and much that requires previous knowledge to get to understand. I cannot even know how to begin to explain this without sounding exorbitantly weird. Period. So I'm not going to try to. At the end of the day, just know this. Certain things have to be documented, because I always assume that they're going to dispute on everything. Because I haven't talked to a normal person that has wanted to interact with me in a matter of years, in a normal way. Best you see McDonald's or, good day, good night. Not real McDonald's, by the way, just force of speech and saying like someone you meet, like good day, good night, we move on. Because virtually everybody knows who I am and knows what they're doing to me and knows that I'm documenting that to expose and to ask, crying for help, basically. So the best people, or normal people, just don't interact with us. As I say now because they can, but at the end of the day, to interact with me, the bad ones used to be the ones wanting to. You know, if someone is really involved in this, they'll be wanting to talk to me, to be my friend. Not that I would mention this very often, but to be fair, it's usually pretty self-evident. And we see that so much so that even if I never mention this with words, it's absolutely... hey, let's just sit and playing together. It's everywhere. Okay? So, as I said, for instance, peeing excessively is one of the signs of, well, amongst the main things besides crime using drugs, and the main things that they one sizable signs of them throwing those things on is excessive peeing, right? And sweating as well, and not the other thing. The pants are still hanging there from when they decide that you all of a sudden throw laxatives in the air, and then you do that through the solution in the air, basically spraying the air through the air to be breathed. They've been throwing those things since early that day. Affected the little one as well. Okay, I see, that's the point. I don't know how to even begin to explain the crimes. They've definitely stopped. But to even begin to explain the crimes without sounding bizarre. That, as I said, is the best way is to say why this is given to the press, because then you can say, hey, look, almost 100,000 videos, if not more than that. Literally 100,000 of, some of those are very long, actually, hour long. Because again, talking about more than 1,000 days related to in this crime, and that is just since they showed themselves to me. Because yes, back home they showed themselves to me. They were stalking my home since way before I even realized what was happening. And then, as I said, making things up, and then creating scenarios, and then many of the things you see here. And as I was saying, there's no beginning to explain this because it's so much apart. So give that to professionals who are smart and can understand this and in process things and see what's important or not. Because again, one of the things that have been difficult has been today. I hadn't had enough minutes with no crime happening to let the power bank charge. And you say a crime, it means, again, not necessarily crime per se, as in the major way, although usually it is. Today it was actually relatively easy to ignore, but last time we were there, they threw something on her to literally defecate herself as we were trying to have my food after staying the whole day hungry. Literally arrived there with my food just to look at her, just pooped herself. And if you think that that's a coincidence, she pooped herself again right before we were about to take the bus on the way home. Not when we were moving around outside, but as I was gently pushing her through inside the mall on the cart, and nothing else was happening. Nothing else. Just moving inside the mall, gently pushing her. And then when I looked to the side, after that store, we purchased the tape today. When we there famously refused to give extra bags. One time even taking one from my hands, because I asked for one plastic bag. Those cheap-ass bags, they rag all the time, and you give them for free all the time because they cost less than 5 cents to the company, even less than that. Because they buy that, but it's hundreds of thousands, almost as much as videos evidence of this. And at the end of the day, they took it from my hand, saying that that wasn't allowed, even though I had to purchase that, because I purchased only like a spoon and a thing, and that was whatever. I'm just saying that very clearly. And as I arrived there, she pooped herself, and that's a video. That's literally filmed how the bag was all covered in that, and it was completely liquid. Because again, when they threw those laxatives in the air, funnily enough, all of a sudden it's liquid. As a matter of fact, so you see, this is a problem. I can specify details of this because I know a lot of the crimes in close detail because I lived them. But I see how stupid and how silly it sounds in this as a generic thing, right? And if you just watch stuff on YouTube, you don't understand and catch up on 4 fucking years of them perfecting the crimes that are done in plain daylight. This matters very little. This is the reverse now. In reverse, we're going to say that matters very little for this crime because it's the most silly thing and probably just a dumbass choice from one of the dumbass criminals who's probably not even coordinated. But some criminals thought it was a genius idea to throw actual narcotics in large amounts in front of a police station here. As I was passing the bus, and I noticed, wow, sizable amounts of narcotics at a fucking police station like that. And the whole point is, there isn't even that much that the cops could have done. They're inside the police station. I mean, someone throws it outside. By the time they get that, it's going to be anyone else. So, again, as consequence goes, it means very little. But for YouTube or those other catchy things, that would be a huge deal. Like, it's a shocking thing. But to be fair, again, if you see crimes being committed in daylight with complete disregard for law, that just goes without saying, right? But again, not diving on this. As I said, it's symbolic, but it has very little meaning for this crime because, as I said, at the end of the day, it didn't affect me all that much. Some criminal is yelling something for you to listen, and I can guarantee that because there was noise before, and the noise started only thought that I was able to listen to. And by then, it was already pretty loud, which means it was relatively close. So they're going to let you listen to the criminal. You're probably not going to listen to anything because they're interfering with the phone. They stopped the video, right? No, it's still going on. That I think I lowered the resolution to the minimum one. So, this one time, this reminds me of something actually useful. In comparison, an actually useful crime is after all this time they've been sedating me during the night and likely assaulting me during the night. They cut my pants. There was one time as I was wearing them, they cut only the reinforcement. And then, so as I was using one day rag up, as I was sleeping right there in the woods, after another crime was done to me here. But again, we dive on that. I mentioned that today in the videos for today. More importantly, though, recently, and I've never been able to catch them. There was one time when I heard them in a video in the middle of the night. Literally, they're pumping my leg and making some weird noise, and the guy just saying something like, yeah, and then just something else, and I freeze at the moment, and I rush inside to ask him to see the video camera, because all that happened in front of the security cameras, right? My shed used to be right there, and his response to me was something like, have you showered already? May have seen a similarity between what you just listened right now, today. Yeah, that's a common. That's why they're saying that dehumanization is a trivial point for this war crime. But it's another point, right? Because, again, if giving this to a reporter with full explanation to the whole, and this is who I am, for just talking to me, YouTube, not the best method for this type of things. Even now, I don't know if what I'm saying is accurately reported in audio, or if you listen to a bunch of baloney. But that's why, as I said, the extent of the war crimes is very vast. This one, I didn't start a new video, but I started before. And again, as I said, very vast. Everything that you see is a small fraction of what happens, which is a small fraction of what, it gets filmed and passed through all the media to get to them. Then itself is a small fraction of what doesn't get tempered enough to the point of being unintelligible. Then itself is a fraction of what's happening, gets filmed, and it just happens in front of the camera. Then itself is, instead of like behind me, just one guy, right? And itself is a fraction of what happens that doesn't get filmed at all, because a couple seconds, anything from the small of a couple seconds as I was charging the phone, saving the files, making an upload, playing a game so my brain doesn't explode in the middle of this walk around every single day, or watching a video on the internet, or just something as simple as today, letting the fucking thing charge, right? Which, by the way, it was like 2 balls lit up to 20 minutes before it went to 2 to 4. So this is tampered with. It's something that they did to this phone. Just saying. Okay? Don't know when did they do that. Don't know if they did that right now for the power or whatever else it was, or if it was some other point. I'm just saying to you, it was charging the entire day virtually, but I can guarantee it's not fully charged. So I don't know why the fuck those 4 balls blinking there are supposed to be. Okay? Which, if you know everything about this thing, you just say, yeah, normally. As a matter of fact, one of the couple points when I say things like, this is one of the deciding factors if you have even basic knowledge about this war crime. If you look at this and you don't see anything weird, then you just don't know what's happening. Period. Okay? Voila, figure out. Okay? So for instance, right now they are throwing the sped drugs in the air. What the sped drugs are, I don't have the idea for the substance, but every one of those quote-unquote nominal drugs is self-explanatory. You have sedation drugs. What do you think they do? They have the sped drugs, have anger drugs, have heat sweat drugs. Now, it's a bit more complicated, but essentially, anger drugs is just about anger itself. All of a sudden, you feel very irate because, again, who would ever heard of narcotics cause people to feel irate for no reason, right? Or sedation, because again, whoever heard of drugs that cause you to just feel like, well, you know those opium houses from the past? Like that, right? Or other things. So, as I said, recently, just to finish on the cooking note, because again, there are things to do. On the note about the day, we arrived here, past the corner, I was singing the All-American Prophet. Quite literally that. I was just singing along to something that I was watching the music. I was playing a video game over there, making backups, and I said, my things are in the back, I better check on them, I think, something like that. Just casually come back here, and as I make this corner, and it's about here, just like that, and just like that in the dark, you see this figure coming up there, and I generally follow the cats playing along in the back, and the issue is, all of a sudden there's this dude passing next to me, and if you listen to that video, you go, first off, I freeze, and I was like, what the fuck is this? And I just say, like, good night, as a way to interact with, good evening, a way to interact with someone. You have to listen to the screen recorder when I showcase what I've been doing, the audio up to this point, what happened after, the fact that criminal was meddling through my bag. But that is not what would you think, because depends on tempo in a way. First off, I can guarantee to you, I didn't think I said that. I don't, not in that way. That I think the audio is tempered. You can just authenticate that. Pretty simple, pretty easy. Another thing, don't authenticate videos on YouTube easily, right? So the full intent to deceive is a crucial part for those criminals. So at some point it's self-evident. Like, if you're millions of criminals and millions of individuals and you're struggling to establish something that tells something about what you're trying to establish, and okay, they simply cannot be trusted. So if you're gonna expect them to give something to you, they're not gonna pick up the random videos. Okay, just a small sample as to all the many reasons that this is not material for YouTube. This is material for actual stock threats, or probably that is gonna be explained. It's gonna have in-depth understanding. Investigative reporters, right? They're gonna look for the things and actually investigate and understand the crime for what it is. So everything's provided. I send emails to the two main branches of press, from BBC, CNN, the main ones. None of them this country. It's what I call local press. They are likely local branches of press are guaranteed to be aware of this, and I can tell you, regional branches of local press are guaranteed to be aware of this, and I would be very surprised if the national variations are not aware of that either. At least people inside, right? So on what is actually happening, because they kind of all do. And as I said, anything from the general part of them generally believing they're going to be on an equal footing with the victim of their crimes, even if not for that, just for the sheer numbers and everything else, down to the minutiae you saw on their buzz. And as I said, to me, do you remember the first time? To me, is the for what look like the same criminals, don't track down faces. Don't even look at faces these days. Back in the day, they were ping-pong special, everything from ethnicities to religions, all sorts of crap. As I said, I don't care, dude. If you're involved in this crime, I don't care if you're blue. If you're involved in this crime, you're a criminal. You address this criminal, and you're exactly the same. And it's there for those, again, hundreds of thousands of people. It's not an amount of number that you can just claim that and just say, yeah, I control myself for those hundreds of thousands of times. No, things bust through, and that's the point. Now, if telling the truth. I mean, if telling the truth, they also bust through. It's just that, kind of that's a good thing. So, as I said, and because of that, these days we don't look. Which occasionally leads to some faux pas, like, for instance, Glenn saying, one recent thing that they're doing, probably because of that, was to use tripping again. Those criminals were trying to actually use the children to be around the crime because they think that it's a win-win scenario. So they want to identify that as a modus operandi that they've been doing. I documented in length explanations just so it couldn't be used as an excuse. Ignorance couldn't be used as an excuse. But other than that, quite honestly, almost served as fuel for them to continue doing that. So by all means, you're going to see it several times. It's another thing. It shouldn't be directly on the internet. It needs proper editing. I don't have any means to do so. But then again, none of those things are designed to be an end product. Which is saying, well, then why you just make them public to begin with? And the answer is, you're not living for those crimes. If you're witnessing all those things and you see them doing all those things to you and to other people you love, and the things are just insane at times and just pointless and cruel, and that's not to mention the rest. I'm not having preparations. There are things in front of me now, right now, which again I'm not gonna enter in the level of explaining as to how or what the drugs. Just not entering details. Right? It's a common thing. If you don't even know what kind of means in this place the means they're putting drugs on me, then you know shit about this. And that's simply that, because this is, for all those times, this is just stapler. This is the one place where they throw drugs and add in abundance. And this place would be the same as any other. I was making backup in one other place for a couple of days, as I said, even when they kidnapped the little siblings. One of them, both times I was in the same place, and each time they kidnapped one different sibling from the baby. Except that for those times, they were 1 month apart from each other, just like that, right? And they put the same drugs on me down the backup place that I'd never been before. So again, just clarifying, is this place, but it's not exclusively this. It's just that he is nobody in the middle of the night, and they're gonna do that. Back in hotels, things used to be much worse. As I said today, Torch Hotel leader was just passing that in the way. They were drugging me inside the hotel room. It was actually even worse than here, to be honest. When I arrived in the city, well, everybody already knew who I was because of this crime that was lingering from before. They will throw all sorts of things. They'll put in the sheets in the hotel rooms. There'll be weird behaviors through the hallways. They'll throw things in the hallways to come into the room. There are tons of them. They're documented in video as well, and the videos stay in place despite getting the best attempts to destroy the evidence. They're also online as well, just not YouTube, not yet. It was before, I think YouTube is a possibility. And all of that is documented. But most importantly, and this is the key, and it's going to be the last thing I'm going to say because I need to pee, that's public knowledge for all the people you just saw. That's public knowledge for everyone. Everyone is reacting, showing any reaction to me, holding the phone like this. Holding the phone like this is not any weird way to hold the phone. It's clearly knowledgeable in what is happening, period. And not because of a couple of YouTube videos from yesterday to today, but for knowledge from years of knowledge in this. And you know that because you see the same expression you saw today in the bus 1 year ago. Plain and simple. Just that. Just like that. So, as I said, just take notice. As I said, we're not even in the phase of explaining what they know. They know everything. This was the previous chapter in documenting. So you see hundreds, thousands of videos of just pointing out those who were focusing on. The previous one for curiosity, I think there was another one in the middle. But the one, how is labor celebrate Christmas? Because again, the idea that I can move from one place to another, but this crime won't change at all. As I said, I've been through several other cities before this one. This is just the one on the side that moving away is not going to make a difference, right? It's not going to end this. Differences, I understand a couple other things here. You have a couple reliant points that can be recurrent for evidence, right? So, as I said, this bus company, which you saw the criminal saying that inside the bus, yeah. And there are hundreds of videos online. Those are just the ones that I pointed out on YouTube. And I even think that for those I showed on YouTube are the ones in the public videos, because I think that I had a public selection tab. Don't know. Either way, hundreds of videos on the buses for sure. There's a common thing for them to put a lot of drugs on the buses. I'll feel all sorts of weird things inside. Everybody's aware. They can breathe as well, right? So as I said, before we also established there how much knowledge we know for a variety of means as much as available to us. You want to know how much they know? Have a casual talk with a random Joe here. Plain and simple. It could be a teenager like the ones that were documented, not visually, as I said, it was being more candid to document them by visually. You could see the teenager from some distance, but at the end of the day, or preaching, you could listen and you could see thorough knowledge into things that happened to me here, or that will happen to me there, or some mockery and some bizarre commentary on something that happened too specific to be a coincidence. And you say, well, perhaps they're going to say to you that they know. Yeah, but I don't know how much they're going to say to you that they know and how much they're going to say that they don't know, how much they say they have no idea what's happening. So for that, we have to pin down every single thing, as I've been choosing, like a court case or like a normal crime documentation thing. And as I said, it's been a long and arduous process because it's about the only thing that I can do. As I said, law enforcement is further knowledgeable in this, much like government bodies, they will be involved in this in one way or another. You saw police officers, I was trying to make a report of a death threat they received here right before they stole my other car. Right there, on this place. I was passing in front of that. The guy just stopped, and we call it true threat, when a guy tried to catch attention, make sure that I was paying attention to it, and then make an actual threat of death threat. And the next day was when they kidnapped my cat. The death was they found me here, that they do some crime, that they kill me. For what I understand, use some local knowledge, but I asked someone else and they translated that, some local terminology. But at the end of the day, I was here the next day and I stayed the whole day, only left in the night to make a report of that. They didn't even report the cab because sometimes I thought it was going to show up and come back and be here because they'd be afraid of the law, but apparently not. And you have a police officer saying that the only identifiable thing in a real death threat in video. He's even pissed that I showed him the video because I made him aware. I can understand why he was pissed. He wanted plausible deniability to say I have no idea what's happening. Why his things are going along with that? It was a fucking death threat against me. For police officers to not only be doing that, but to believe that they be feeling entitled and take on the victim of any type of crime because he showed them the crime, so now can no longer claim ignorance. It's a perfect embodiment of what I said to you. Not just the corruption itself, but the fact that you feel that the victim will go along to help you out, even though that he's the target of a fucking death threat in video. So as I said, it's just one example. This is minor. You think that's a big deal? You have no fucking clue what's happening here. But you know who does? Just about everybody else. So if you want to know, just ask around. Plain and simple. Expect them to lie to you because, I mean, you know they're lying because their mouth moves, but also, why wouldn't they? They're being accused of a fucking war crime. And you want to know the war crime directly? The disfranchisement, use of substances they tested, manufactured, and perfect and changed and tweaked to get it to work, like the ones they used as of recently. Like the ones they used today inside the bus. Inside the bus, you see the catch. Bus stops in the bus stop, open the door. All of a sudden, the cat that was peacefully asleep start acting up and get very agitated. The criminals behind me start to make all sorts of fuss. Then all of a sudden, I feel something weird. I don't know if it was itchiness in my head or something else. I comment on that. Even thinking before that, I think it was before one thing that I was in the middle. And then all of a sudden, the cat starts to get extremely sedated, like eyes dripping closed, and it goes to sleep. Criminals behind just act normal again, and I start to not feel anything weird anymore. As I said, everything back to normal. Inside the mall today, same thing, exact same thing happened. All of a sudden, she just pops up, feels something in my bag, some itchiness or something like that, and then she starts acting up, out of control, and again, it did so many things. Again, this sounds silly even now, just by itself. There is nothing I can do that won't sound silly, because I know in detail, and I want to explain as much detail as possible, because you never know when it's going to be tampering or not. You never know when. That's also why I say to you that no matter what, you're going to listen to the things, because if they're tampering that before, they're not be tampering the same way now. So one way or another, it's going to bust through to you. And as I said, there are drugs in here now, like narcotics, actual narcotics. Right? I woke up several days in the morning with the smell of marijuana. So simple statement. Never used drugs in my life. Yep, sure going. Kept checking because they would stop this video. You know how I know the video stopped? Just random dude just pass it by, would make a weird noise, or say something silly, and then I flip the phone and the phone is no longer recording. This one. The other one tends to be more reliable. Last resources, I'll tell you that for sure. That's an activity as well. Presumably at least. But that's it. there were several times when I was like saying something, and I see that documented in, I don't know if it's this phone or the other phone. This phone, little guy is a lot. Everything on them is also backed up. Up to recently was done thoroughly, and that's backup deployed in place because, of course, then targeting me physically would be one of the most obvious things that they could do. So I had to take precautions for that. So now everything's online, not just on YouTube. I mean, all those that are public on YouTube is at 300 and something, and they're gonna disappear because they're gonna keep making them the same way as the other ones. But the other ones are not gonna be private forever. They're private until a certain release point where this is deemed to be over, or is deemed that, well, you see that what it is.